We talk about all things related to basketball, strength and conditioning, things in our life that are going on. If he ever made it to the NBA, would I come work for him? And I was like, yeah, if you make it. And lo and behold, he did make it.
Yeah, and just like we said, like you gotta trust your work, like the work you put in. If you haven't been putting any work, then you can't really trust your work. Like the shots might not fall, but I've been working all summer, and like I just kept playing basketball.
All right, what's up, everyone? This is the beginning of an idea me and Oliver have had for a few weeks. Just trying to start a podcast where we talk about all things related to basketball, strength and conditioning, things in our life that are going on, and be able to share it with you guys. So, what's up, Oliver? What's this
up,
podcast
Josh?
to you?
No, it's just a chance to speak about everything games, like basketball, but yeah, we connected a long time ago, like 2020, first time, and before that, I'd actually been following Josh like on the socials because I'd been following Jalen, and then yeah, we finally actually got to meet for the first time this summer in the States. Like we had been chatting for like 4 years, I guess. And then yeah, we actually got to meet in person. Yeah, it was kind of in New York. It was kind of a cool moment because we had been like chatting for so long already online, and then finally got to meet.
Yeah, I think I had to scroll back for like 10 minutes to figure out what our first text message was. Yeah, why don't you, I think it's important, not everyone's going to know who we are, or everyone's probably going to know you. Some people know me. Why don't you give a little background, your playing career, and what you got going on?
Yeah, I name's Oliver, but also go by How to Make the NBA. No, it's actually funny. People recently have been like coming up, are you How to Make the NBA? Like they don't even know my name. But anyways, my name's Oliver. Yeah, went to school in Hong Kong for high school, and then played at Rice University in Houston. After that, graduated, came back to Hong Kong to play. Now play for the Hong Kong national team. About to be my fifth year playing pro. And then, yeah, like a lot of people might know me now, like from maybe this summer, because spent a couple months in the States, just getting after it, and so
Locking up people.
Yeah, locking up. And then, yeah, that was a cool experience for sure. We'll talk more about it for sure later. There's a lot of stories, and yeah, Josh, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Josh. No, yeah, I guess only people know me by Josh. I was born and raised in Rockville, Maryland. Played high school here. Went to Boston College. That's kind of where I met Jeremy Lin, and we started training together when he was at Harvard and I was at Boston College. I was like a year older. Started training at that when I was in college, and then me and Jeremy always had this kind of running joke with, if he ever made it to the NBA, would I come work for him? I was like, yeah, if you make it. And lo and behold, he did make it. And he was like, yo, you want to come work for me? I was like, I'm there. Got on a plane and was with him for, what was that, over nine years. 9 years in the NBA, like total, probably like 11 years total time.
Yeah.
Traveling with whatever city he was at, and just doing all skill development and strength and conditioning for over a decade. And so at the end, towards the end, I was a coach for the Beijing Ducks CBA team. I did that for a year as a assistant coach. And then recently, 3 years ago, decided to move back to the area, Rockville, Maryland, had a kid, and just training local high school players, college players, and then any international players that come in and visit and do camps. And so,
yeah, I need to visit you in Maryland
so
soon.
you had a You do, and I'm waiting for you to get here so you can post. Does anyone have a gym and have like 20 DMs of private gyms I've never heard of in this area?
Um,
All right, so I mean, the history of me and Oliver goes back to kind of 2021, where we've been going back and forth with a lot of training questions, how to structure training, practice, and all that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of what gave us the idea to birth this podcast. Is like, if you guys look through our WeChat or text message thread, we have like, at this point, it's got to be like thousands of voice messages and back and forth of ideas.
yeah,
And
for sure.
we just want to bring that, share those ideas with you guys, because we don't want to be selfish with our gains. We want to help you guys as much as possible. So that is the reason for this podcast.
Yeah. And just to share a little more, like, about how we first connected, it was I just saw the messages today again. That was like, I guess some of the stuff I shared like actualized, at least like some of the first steps. But basically, I was a year and a half after graduating. This was when COVID had just happened, and then like basketball in Hong Kong had kind of paused. I mean, in a lot of the world, it had done the same. But then I basically reached out to Josh because I'd been following him a long time, and then kind of shared like where I was at. I believe we hopped on a call after that and spoke. But then, that's when we first connected. And then I remember when I first played in my first ABL season. ABL is like a Southeast Asian league that my club in Hong Kong played in before. And I remember you like breaking down film, kind of like I remember that, like, those videos very clearly, like kind of the insight you shared offensively, defensively, and within my role as well, because in that league you have 3 or 4 imports per team, so sometimes I was the only local on the floor. But so that season was kind of like where my defense kind of that was like the first step, because before that I'd never been a in Chinese, like 启发, like it's almost like where my defense like was birthed. Before that I'd never been a defense first player, or defense was not my strength either. But I mean, we can start talking about defense now, because a lot of people, like, that's a huge thing that especially these last few months, like, people are asking about. So I guess we can like speak a little about it. But
why don't you talk about the birth of your defense?
The birth of my defense. I mean, in the beginning, it was just I would say it was like a means to stay on the floor, to get playing time. There wasn't like something intrinsically like beautiful about defense that intrigued me. It was like, it's gonna get me on the floor. I'm gonna stay in the game. That's what helped me get started into it. So about a month before the season, I started like doing like straight defense work. Like, I'd never done that in my life, where I just work on defense on the court, like footwork drills, different hip stuff. And then when games started, when I checked into the game, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna pick up full court and see what happens. And then we'll interlay some clips right here, but I basically was like guarding full court. The coach after was like, yo, we've never, like, even the GM was like, yo, we've never seen you play defense like this. Like, what's going on? Like, and then I surprised myself as well. And those games afterwards, like, a lot of times that's, what got me playing time, because I'd be basically in the game to guard the other team's best perimeter player. And so for me, like, sometimes I would come off the bench, sometimes I would start. I never knew, but basically defense, I know now, is like a great way to just get into the flow of the game, get into flow of things. you're not really thinking about anything like whether the shot goes in. It's kind of more in your control. And like we've spoke about this now, like those first few reps of picking up full court, it's a way to get yourself warm as well, especially if you've been on the bench for a long time. Your hips might not be warm, like it's just a great way to get into the zone like right away. Like we get this, you probably get this question as well, like, oh, like how do you stop overthinking, or how do you get into the game and stuff like that? And sometimes it's just like you just start doing something, and then before you know it, you just forget about like anything that you're thinking about, and then you're just playing basketball. And so defense was kind of that season kind of got me into it. And then since then I've just been building on it. And then this year, if anything, we'll talk about as well, like my defense is kind of I would say it still has room for improvement for sure, but like it's at a solid level. Like if anything, I need to improve the other end of the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple interesting things you said there. I think when it comes to defense, what sticks out to me about you is it's mentality, right? It's having that like dog defensive mentality. That's like the first part of defense, is wanting to play defense and being able to like willing to have those lungs burn, get low, do all that kind of dirty stuff, not dirty stuff, but being willing to do that. And then the second thing you said is just doing it, having the experience. I see people always commenting like, do you have defensive tips? What's the best defensive footwork? All this stuff. But it's like
every day.
How can you take thousands of hours of cumulative experiential knowledge, and just be like, yo, this is how you do it, right? So it's like what you started doing is you started guarding people right away and getting those reps. And I think that's like a really valuable insight, is people always are trying to like, I understand there's like a more optimal way, but you gotta get your own experience. Like you gotta go get your EXP. Like people can't get that for you. And then obviously as you're doing it, like you're gonna do all your stuff, which is be in the weight room, expand your physical capacity, maybe hone some technique that's more optimal for your body, or different ways, and maybe watch film and improve that way as well.
Yeah, so on that note, I think well, there's many different styles. Like I think this podcast, we might not go like crazy deep into defense, because we could speak for like 5 hours straight on it. But there's like different just like offense, you have different types of defenders, like guys like Patrick Beverley, who are more their torso is like more parallel to the ground. Like they're you could say they use they might gamble a little more, like the different stances. So different players have different stances. So like if you watch like Davion Mitchell, Drew Holiday, they're a little more upright. Like chest is a little up, and then guys like Patrick Beverley, it's like, or even Tony Allen, like they're like chest is like almost parallel to the floor at times. Yeah, so it's like that RDL type position. And so for me, I've always been like, I've realized I'm relatively like more chest upright. Like that's kind of like one of my strengths as well, because like I'm not the tallest guy, but for like it makes me taller. And then like for a combo guard 1-2, like that is like an advantage of mine. And like even tracing back to like growing up, even my parents or my mom will always observe like I've had like stronger bones, or like more dense bones. Like I've never been like I haven't gotten this tested, in a laboratory, but like it's kind of that like, no, it's kind of like that like wrestling or like rugby strength, where like you just like
dense,
like hit,
you got density. more
Yeah,
thick
yeah.
bone.
You hit people and then like I don't like feel hurt or anything. Like they'll feel something. So it's like stuff like that, and then yeah, we just went on a little sidetrack about that. But yeah, I think the first
Nah,
step for
go
people
ahead.
to start, first step for people is like watching defense, like film, like just watching it. Like a lot of people, they tell me from after watching videos of mine, like me playing defense, like after they just watch it and then they go play basketball, they feel like their defense has gotten better. Like it's not like they've done specific drills or some of the stuff I might have done, but they just like see it, like they're getting more exposed to it, more exposure, and then they go out and play. Maybe they have these like mental playbacks in their head or like like while they're playing, so they're able to implement it better. And I'm sure like everyone does it for offense, but it's just defense, like for defense.
Well, no, when they watch it, they're able to see what's able to be done on defense, like different ways to stop, right? And it gives them ideas of how to do it as well. I think also like if we just think about defense and distill it back, what is the key principle of defense? The key principle of defense is take away space, right? So
Yeah.
on offense, the key principle is we use moves, crossovers, in and out, jab steps to create just a little bit of space. How do we create space? When we do those moves, it kind of off balances you, right? The defender gets shifted in their heels, maybe gets pushed into one leg. That little moment of off balancing the defender is just enough for us to maybe get off a shot. Now, it's going to be the inverse for defense, right? So, defense, you're actually like, you brought up the styles, is you're trying to disturb the offensive person's rhythm, right? So, if
Yep.
a good defender is constantly making the offensive player react to them, right? Versus a really good offensive player is constantly making the defense react to all his movements, right? So, I think this is like thinking about it from like just top down, or the overall principles is like, his defense, a really good think about the most pesky defender you've ever played against. Like he probably made your life a living hell. Like dribbling, you didn't feel comfortable with your shot. You felt like you had to change your form or like change where your shot pocket placement was. Like he just constantly is like messing up your balance and messing up your rhythm, right? So like even from if you don't know how to do that, just thinking about how you can be pesky and inconvenience the person is like a good guiding principle of how you're going to do it. And I mean, why don't you talk more about your mentality? Like that's what you do, right?
Uh,
All you do is disrupt.
I would say so in like a pickup run, that's different from a team scheme where it's like if you're in a 5-on-5 game or like a
Of course.
professional setting. But no, I want to share that because there's certain things I can do depending on the player. So just an example. In a run, everyone's trying to get their own, right? So they're not going to make the first easy pass. Like if I see them put the ball down on the floor once, they're probably going to put it down on the floor a second time. Like on that second dribble, I might try to make a play even when I'm off ball. And then or it might be someone who's like they're just trying to get a shot off. You can kind of,
Uh-huh.
know they're not going to make the, quote unquote right pass in a professional setting. But in a professional game, um, like first your matchups, right? So I've had I've had different styles of coaches. Like I've had different coaches and who also have different defensive philosophies, which also tie into like how you're able to play D. So I try to just wear a player down, like in the full court, because I'm usually guarding the ball handler. I'm not guarding, like the four man. I'm usually guarding like the best player at the 1, 2, 3 position, right? So um,
Hmm.
I'll just pick them up full court. Like from the moment they catch it in the back court, I'm right in front of them. And at this point now, like uh, some players have seen like the style I play defense, so they'll choose to just like give it to someone else to bring it up, which doesn't hurt me because I know I know every chance. So I know as an offense, like even dribbling up the floor, like when no one guarding you, you're getting like reps, like feeling the ball. You're getting more touch, right? If you don't get that as a point guard, that's like a rep where you didn't get to dribble the ball. Like you might think it's not a lot, but for someone who, is used to dribbling a lot, some shooters, they get their touch from dribbling it. Some shooters can, not touch a ball and like be cold for like 20 minutes, just come in like 3-and-D and just make a shot. But some players, like they need to dribble a few times. They need to like feel the ball for a bit before they're comfortable shooting. So for these guys, if I took away their aggressiveness, then that's a win for me. So either way, like it's like you're either gonna dribble up against me, I get like 94 feet of like physical pressure, or you can choose to have someone else bring it up. Then it's like either way they're kind of like losing their aggressiveness, because if they try to go against my physical defense, like they're wearing themselves up. Like I can feel it. Yeah, like we can talk more about this, but I can basically feel after like 1 or 2 reps of full court, against my defense, their intent to shoot, we've talked about this, just decreases. Like when they get to the point of the screen, or when the screen's at like the 3-point line, I might quickly go under, but at that time they might be temporarily like fatigued. So even if they were a solid like off the dribble shooter, at that point in time, because they're like a little winded from all the defense, they might not shoot. And then they pass it when I went under, then they're like, after they pass it, they might be like, oh shit, he went under though, I didn't shoot it. And then now they're like starting to think like, yeah, because now they have these thoughts. So like, yeah, for me, it's just like, a lot of this comes from my my knowledge or confidence that I'm in better shape than them. Like I'm in better condition than any player else on the floor. And I know that to be true because of like just like my stamina, all the stuff I've built up, and just like comparing, like even through college, afterwards, like my ability, like heart rate, like stuff like that. I have some objective measures, but I'm in like great condition. So like I know if I'm wearing him down and I'm tired, he's more tired than me. So I'm gonna just keep going. And then if someone just checked in, then they might not be like in the flow of things. So even if they're like fresh, they're cold. So they're not gonna be that aggressive like the first rep. So it's like still a chance. This is considering I'm like playing 40 minutes. Say I'm playing 40 minutes and then there's like a starter that's playing 30 minutes and like his backup's playing 10 minutes. Like when the backup just subs in, he's like fresh, but then he's cold. So he's not going to like pull up like from deep, he's not trying to, get his ass up to the bench right away. So it's like just knowing these little like what type of player, how confident is he, what type of coach is he playing for, how much green light he has, and I can like know like how aggressive I should be, or like just little things like that. There's like a lot of variables.
Yeah, I think another important point that you bring up is your skill is only as good as your conditioning, or you can only execute on that skill if like you're properly conditioned, right? And when talking about defense, you've established that you can guard guys 94 feet, do repetitive reps. And that kind of leads me to, maybe we can talk about this summer, which is something we were talking about in your game, is Oliver would be able to guard guys multiple reps, full 94 feet, but then found himself a little bit winded for offensive possessions, right? Because that takes a lot of effort. And so, something we tried to design for his workouts and stuff is how do we get him in condition to shoot a lot of those shots? So I can share a little bit more about what we did, Oliver, and then you can maybe talk about your own experience or how it felt. But basically, Oliver in the gym, he'd be shooting a lot of, getting reps up, which is fine, and doing some game scenarios. But as you know, in a game, like you're not going to be able to just rip off 8 shots in a row, right? So for a solid, I would say, month, a thing that we were training with Oliver is like before he did any shots, it would be like 1, 2, even like 3 defensive consecutive reps before he would get 1 or 2 shots maximum. And we were just trying to simulate that game-like feel. And we did all types of defensive, like he would close out. He'd have to close out. The person would swing the ball. He'd have to close out again.
I'd have to contest at the rim. I would have to play ball screen defense. Yeah, we mix it up. Yeah.
All types of defense, and then all into different shots. Some shots would be contested. Some shots would not be contested. But this is just to give you guys a little bit more insight as to like how Oliver and I have been thinking about training and just how we can like design practice. And so why don't you talk about that experience, Oliver, and how you felt doing those drills?
Well, looking back to like our first messages, one thing that stuck out was like I asked you a very specific, like, oh, I'm planning to do this and that, and then you were like, you should think about what problems you have on the court right now, and then create drills or think about how to improve that. So like, we didn't just, like write this out of thin air. It was because of like some G League tryouts or like specific scenarios where I found myself so winded from going crazy on defense that when I had open 3 or like a good look, like the shot just didn't go in. Like it just felt off. And sometimes it was a lot of, we can't pinpoint exactly why, but from training it, more exposure to it, then when that situation happens again, then hopefully it increases my percentage, right? So again, like everyone like listening to this might have a different, your role on the team might be different. So it's like, all right, what are you struggling with right now? So that's what I remember, like even when I first reached out to you, and then when we spoke again this summer, it was like, all right, what am I struggling with? And then we figure out a game plan to attack that, and that's what we did. And so the it was definitely new to me, like like playing defense like that. Each rep, it was obviously I wanted to make it, but then I'm not gonna lie, like the first few sessions, it was like 0 for 1, 0 for 2, and I'll be like, oh my god, and 0 for 3, and then it was like 1 for 3, 1 for 4, and then the percentages at first were not looking good. And again, we talked about this, but it was like the mentality, next shot, you just keep going, right? And then session after session, we probably did each type of workout might have been at least 3 or 4 times, because it was like a good
workout too, right?
It was, yeah. So we talked about, so we had different styles or different types of workout. One workout might be like that. Another one might be like a lot of different types of shot making. Another one might be more live reps. Another one might be, like shooting shots like cold, or like just different types of stuff. But I felt like for me, going back to like the output on defense and offense, it really depends on like your role in your team, like those 5 players. Say like in Rico Hines runs, one day I was on the Timberwolves team, like it was literally Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels. Who else was on the team? There's Luka. What's his last? The big man, Luka. He played. He's on the Timberwolves right now. He was on the G League team. Garza, was it Luka Garza?
Russian?
Is he Russian?
I don't know.
All right. Anyways, it was like it was 3 or 4 NBA players, and it was me. So they're trying to do their thing on offense. So I was really like D and 3. Like I wasn't coming off screens, that kind of thing. Then at that point I was like,
ripping threes.
At that point I was just going crazy on defense. Like I poured all my energy on like flying around, offensive rebounding, like flying around on rotations, defense. Like that day I ended up subbing in later on, but like we didn't lose the game. Like that was the first day like I stayed on the winner's court the whole time, and then I made some shots, but obviously like more in like a supplementary role. So that was like true like 3-and-D, and I mean I enjoyed it, but it's like on another team I might be have a little more offensive output required out of me. So going back to the question, I think you have like finite amount of energy. Like obviously you're in the best condition, like you're athletic enough where you can play at a slow pace but still output well. But on defense, you can't have like, on offense you can pace yourself. Like you can be like LeBron, like, like kind of move slow. Defense, if you're trying to be a menace, like you can't be like moving slow. Like you gotta be. I mean, you can become more savvy.
Like LeBron, you could chase down everybody and block them out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you can be more savvy and become a more experienced defender, but to really wreak havoc, you kind of have to output, and pretty much now, like even through games, like I kind of learned from that, like, all right, like, am I outputting too much on defense or on offense? I'm supposed to take on a role where, I'm a floor general. I'm, coming off screens, making sure I'm making the right reads. Am I too fatigued for that? Like, am I turning the ball over, or like, am I just too tired? So it's like, I kind of have to gauge where I'm at. Like, obviously, yeah, I basically, I just need to know my role, or like what's expected out of me, or who's on the floor with me, and then yeah, like based on that, who's on the other team, the situation, then I can kind of output, I guess. But it really depends,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you get too off tangent, let me distill kind of what Oliver was sharing. Is like a lot of you guys are always asking like, what should I work on? What should I be training? What should I be doing? Right. And I think it's very important that you identify like a key problem that you're experiencing on the court. The easiest question I like to ask players or myself is like, basically, if you were to write a scouting report for the other team on how to shut you down and hand it to them, like what would you write? Or think back to like the worst games that you had this past season. Like what did the opposing teams do to you? And that's like a really good place to start. And for us, with Oliver, going into the summer, there was a lot of G League tryouts, and basically everyone was saying, we love your defense. Your defense is amazing. You're guarding guys full court. But they would be like, he didn't shoot that well. Like offense, basically your defensive rating would be like 99, and your offensive rating was like, what do you think they would give you?
I mean, there were some tryouts like I shot better.
But
yeah, it wasn't bad, but it was like at each tryout it was like his defense is phenomenal. Like he's the best on ball defender there, but it was like offense, like they didn't say it was bad, but it'd be like, oh, like he didn't shoot the ball well, or there were times I did shoot the ball well, or like I did do my thing offensively, but yeah, it's just very competitive to.
It just didn't stand out. It didn't stand out like.
Yeah, it didn't stand out. I guess it didn't stand out. So.
And so for us, like that was kind of the problem we were identifying. It's like, why isn't your offensive standing out? Well, it's like, okay, well, obviously Oliver spent a lot of time thinking about defense and playing defense, and we just needed to reorient some of that energy. It's like, okay, well, is it better to have a 99 defense rating and like 60% offense, or like maybe we don't spend as much time on defense and your rating goes down to like a 94, but you're able to bring offense to like 80 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That definitely like changes the perspective of a lot of GMs. That brings me to another point, which is like a lot of people also ask like how many shots should you be taking? And now this is going to differ where you are in your career, how developed you are. Now Oliver's been playing basketball like a very long time, right? And he has gone through those periods of times where he's already shot high volume, gone on the gun, make 500. But I'll never forget this this conversation we had with Kyle Korver. We were out in, I think, Santa Barbara, visiting P3, that like training facility, and we did a shooting workout with Kyle Korver, and I remember it was like a pretty short workout, probably like 15 minutes. And I remember Jeremy asking him like, "Oh, is that the end of the workout?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I do 150 makes.
All the shots he
Every shot is game speed shots from the offensive schemes or from where I'm going to take it in game.
The looks you're going to get."
Yeah. And he's like, and I go full speed. And if you actually listen, like there's a podcast with him and JJ Redick, and JJ Redick's like, yeah, parents are always asking me how many shots should my kid shoot? And it's not that there isn't maybe a time for volume, but I think the thing that a lot of kids miss is like they don't shoot shots at game speed, and they don't have that same focus or intention when they're shooting. They're just like, oh, I'm just here to shoot. I made 600 today, or they're obsessed with a specific number, but it's actually really like the quality of the shots. And something I want to talk about when we did your training was because you're in the G League environment, because you were in the Rico Hines runs and playing at more high level, the volume of shots you were allowed to take per game were like very small, right? Like, when's the last time you remember a pickup game in a pro pickup game where you took more than like five threes or 5 jumpers, right? And so I think this is really important, is like as a shooter or as a basketball player, like you got to learn how, like in a span of, a 1 hour game, to make those 4 shots count. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in one of our training days with Oliver, it was like,
yeah, it's like 12 shots.
You get 1 shot from this spot. You get 1 shot from this corner. And it's not because we were simulating like we were trying to like hone his shot with stuff. We were trying to work on the mentality of the game, or being able to simulate that type of game vibe or that game pressure, a feeling of like, okay, I started 0 for 2, I started 0 for 3. Like, it's very easy. Like, I'm sure plenty of guys who listen to this podcast have started a game like 0 for 4, and they're like, dang it, it's just not my day. I'm not going to shoot the ball again. 0 for 5. Oh my God, I'm 0 for 5. Like, I need to make 1 shot, right? So it's like, it's very easy to be like in your head, 0 for 1, you're like, I'm good. 0 for 2, you're like, it's okay. 0 for 3, 0 for 4, 0 for 5. You start questioning yourself a little bit, whether you should take in your shot. And everybody knows if you want to guarantee to miss a shot, second guess your shot. That's a guaranteed miss, right? So the thing that we're really training with you is it doesn't matter 0 for 6, like reset, treating the next shot. Like, obviously, like if there's something you feel like that's really wrong, like you keep like doing some weird type of hitch or something like that, like figure it out, you know what I mean? But having the ability to stay confident in your skill set. And I mean, we'll probably talk about this another time, but you had a game recently in Taipei where you started slightly rough. Why don't you tell our fans about that?
I started the game 0 for 4. And we had actually spoke about this, or I actually asked Josh for advice before the game, because I hadn't played a game in a long time, and his advice was actually like, just let the game come to you. Don't force anything. You don't need to try to like show like, oh, you're show my shooting or show your defense. Just like let the game come to you. I mean, obviously on the defensive end, I'm gonna play defense how I do. So it's like that would be natural. But I started the game. I mean, like I said, 0 for 4. They felt good. Like the shot felt good, but it just a couple rimmed out, and then I think I had 1 point. Then I missed a free throw too. So I was like 1 for 2. Went to the half with 1 point. I went into the half with 1 point. I was like, man. But like Josh said, like use each quarter as a reset. Every time you go into the huddle, timeout, just think about what adjustments you need to make offensively, defensively, and then starting the second half. When I checked back into the game, I didn't like think about anything specifically. I just kept playing defense, and then I didn't even like pre-plan when I was gonna shoot it. I just shot it, went in, next one went in, next one went in, and I made like next 4 shots. And so after the game, like I didn't play my best game because I mean it's hard to when you have like 1 point in the first half, but like for me it was like a progress in terms of like the mental side, because I mean in the past for sure, like when you go 0 for 4, like you'll start like thinking about that or stuff like that. But it was like a small win for myself, like just in terms of not like how many points I scored or how well I played. It was just like I just kept playing, didn't let that affect me. And just like we said, like you gotta trust your work, like the work you put in. If you haven't been putting any work, then you can't really trust your work. Like the shots might not fall, but I've been working all summer, and like I just kept playing basketball, and then the shots went in, and then that was like, I mean I've probably started games like 0 for 4 before, but this was like the most recent example and experience, and we spoke about it before and after, so it was like it's like still fresh in the memory.
So I think another key thing is like we were doing that in practice already. So we were getting you used. It wasn't the same level of stress that you probably felt like in that game, right? But I think that's an important part, is that you have to start finding ways to introduce stress or pressure into your practice. It's never going to be exactly the same, but there's one drill we do with Oliver where it's like end of the game, draw up a scenario and he gets 1 shot, make or miss. It's a game-winning shot. And I know for a fact it kills Oliver to try to have to leave the gym. It's like very taboo. Everybody who's listening to this knows you do not leave the gym on a missed shot. Whether it's like you do a little layup, you do a little free throw, you're like, let me get the ball, let me get one last shot in. And I was like, bro,
even in pregame,
you missed this?
Pregame shooter. Keep going.
Yeah, pregame shooter. I was like, nah. And one time Oliver missed it, and I could tell he was trying to like do like a little like, I'm like, hell no, like John, like, you can't touch the ball. Walk off the court. Take off your shoes. Take off your socks. I was like, walked him to his car to make sure like he didn't get an extra shot. Now, what's the point? The point is like, is he really gonna feel like he missed a game winner? No, but it's like, it's to attach some meaning, a higher level of urgency or focus to each shot. I had this kid that I was working out the other day. He's a great shooter, but just really lazy with his free throws recently. And throughout the workout, I think he shot it was like 10 for 20, which is like abysmal in a workout. 2 free throws in between drills, 2 free throws in between drills. And we get to the last set of 2 free throws, and I was like, look, you shot like trash today from the free throw line. I was like, these are the only free throws that count today. You get 2 free throws, you're down by 1. There was just, such a different level of focus towards those last 2 free throws, where I could see it in his eyes. I could see he did his entire free throw routine, and he switched both of them. And I was happy, but I was also pissed. I was happy. I was like, all right, you locked in. That was good. That was a great way to end the workout. But I was pissed because I was like, you have to treat every shot that preciously, like when you take it in our training workouts. You can't just be like, walk up to the line, just be like, whatever, and just like tune out and be thinking about something else. And I think a lot of players come and ask you to work out with you. A lot of players ask me to train them and stuff. And I think one thing people don't notice is between like, well, something I've seen with like Jeremy and other really high level players is like their ability to stay focused and locked in throughout a duration of a workout. Now, I've seen Oliver in some workouts where like he gets pissed at the defenders because he can tell like the defender just took off basically 2 reps. And he's like, yo, you're cheating me. You just cheated me out of 2 reps of getting better.
Yeah, tell him to play harder and like, foul me or like just
yeah, like you know that guy was coasting or like just wasn't paying attention, like on help defense, wasn't like totally locked in. And I think like if you really want to make big changes or big improvements in your game, people think it's like one workout. It's like, no, it's the duration of an entire off season of workouts. Every workout, if you have 60 minutes, maximizing 60 minutes, right? There's plenty of other people who just coast through workouts, do a bunch of like cone trash, like whatever, like not focused, just doing stuff, not visualizing, not seeing what's in the game, going like half speed, and they think they're getting the work in, but they're not. I mean, why don't you talk about it? You've had guys come work out with you, right? You've had guys DM you like, oh, Oliver, how to make it to the NBA? Can I work out with you?
Yeah, I mean,
and how many of them like they last like one workout, and you'll be like, okay, see you tomorrow, and they'll be like, I have something with my team. Yeah, talk about guys who've come try working out with you.
I mean, at this point, one of the main reasons I went to the States to begin with, it was just to find like the best competition, because I'll answer that question good. Yeah, I have plenty of people like asked to work out and stuff, but I think not everyone, I'd say, has the mentality of like battling for the sake of mutual improvement. Like I'm blessed to like have some, like you could say, sparring partners, like basically teammates or homies or guys in Hong Kong, guys in mainland China, guys in the States or like wherever. Like we'll just go at each other. Like it's not personal, or like we're just going at each other. And then if we're like foul each other, it's like all good. It's like not like ill intent. So it really depends on like that's for live reps, right? Like, so we're all there trying to get better, and most of these guys are pros, so like they have that mentality.
I mean, like you've worked out with people who you could tell like their focus is not there, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like sometimes it might be like the environment, or I can't say I was like, well, ever since like maybe, yeah, I was just thinking, but like ever since I had like a strong goal, like high school, I was like, I'm trying to play college, I'm trying to play pro. Like I that kind of goal, or just being like growing up around my mom, like she used to be an athlete, so like that kind of focus has always been there. But I'd say for some people it might be like their environment, like maybe they're used to just playing with their friends at the rec center, or just like playing like lunchtime, like goofing around, like, and then you kind of tell them to get them into like this training environment where like you gotta stay locked in. Like it's not natural for them, but it's like for me it's always like I've been in that environment, and so I will say there are people who I worked out with, and then they do have that. Then I'm happy to be like their mentor, or whenever I'm in town, I invite them to come train with me. Sometimes it's not even mentor, like we're similar age, like then it's just like we're homies. Like one example was like in high school, when I was a senior, there was a freshman who like was really into basketball. He wanted to play college, he ended up playing D3, as a player in Hong Kong. Like he had that mentality. So every time I came back during the summers, or holidays, like I would have him train with me. He wanted to train with me, and then he did really well. Like in high school, he was like the captain. He kind of set the tone, the culture, because that kind of stuff really depends on your captain, or your like one of your best players, like you setting the whole culture for the team. And yeah, even now in Hong Kong, like I have like there are quite a few guys that I hit up like almost daily, because I'm like in the gym like 8 days a week. I mean, maybe one day off, but then like sometimes it's twice on the court. But it's like I'll hit them up like, are you free Tuesday, Thursday, like on the live rep days, like can you make it? And then some guys can't make it, then it's like depending on who comes, it might be like, if it's 3 guys, it might be like one-on-one, or like 4 guys, might be some 2-on-2 stuff. So yeah, I mean,
just you got to find guys that are committed,
who are committed, have that mentality.
Like, in terms of improvement,
yeah. So it's like I don't try to change anyone. It's like if they got it, and we're on the same wavelength, then it's just good vibes. We're just here to get better.
Yeah, I think maybe the difference between you and I is that I'm in the role of trainer coach, right? So like that is like a skill set that I try to build versus in my players. But since you're a current player and also like trying to up your game, you're like, if you don't have that quality or vibes, like don't come near me, don't step in the gym, and don't taint my stuff. So I think you do a good job, surrounding yourself with people who are about gains, don't stop, about iron sharpening iron. I think that's really important. Like the most valuable thing as a kid is to find one or two teammates who got that same vision, who got that same commitment, that same dog in them, and just work out with them, and find different ways to get better. That's like a great way to improve. Why don't we do 2 more things? Why don't we, a lot of people saw the clip with you guarding Paul George and you guarding Klay Thompson. Why don't you talk about those 2 experiences for you, your mentality, what it was like, and then we can probably end with the 1 or 2 questions that we got from listeners.
I mean, it was pretty cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, so now being back in Hong Kong.
Klay was first, right?
Yeah. So Klay was first. So he pulled up to a run, and I think I was supposed to be on the same team with him, but then we ended up being on different teams, and so yeah, I got to match up with him. It was just like a run for him. So I think he would like his role in the NBA, like he's not bringing the ball up like that much, or he scores in.
Let's just say the caveat before the comments. We all know that it was summer. We all know it's in just like casual runs. Like we got it. This is not like in a 5-on-5 NBA setting with NBA sets. Like we know maybe Oliver might not have the same results in that. We got it. We got it. So
because like if I had to run like around like 3 pin downs, or like like with like 7 feet guys screening, then he'd get like way more open, right? So I didn't have to play defense in that kind of environment. So it was like it was more like one-on-one, guarding ball screens, and then there weren't like true bigs. Like you know how it is in some runs. Like sometimes the run's as good as like the bigs you can get to come, because sometimes if it's like all guards, you know, it's just a different style of basketball, right? So
For sure.
yeah, guarding Clay was dope. He gave me like good feedback as well after. Like he appreciated, you know, like guarding him like that, because he was like he hasn't gone against that type of like bringing up the floor 94 feet since high school.
He's like, what is this, the NBA playoffs, bro? Chill.
Yeah, he's like, yo, I haven't done this since like high school. And then yeah, he's like,
He said
"Man, I
something to
appreciate
you,
you."
though. He said something to you.
Yeah, he said like, I appreciate you, you know, playing defense, getting me better. He was like, the way you play defense, you can find a job anywhere in the world. And then yeah, I got a picture with him. Like obviously I've been following him like on TV like for many years, so it was he's taller than I thought. And he's and like I'm not tall enough to like block any of his shots, so it's like just a matter of like doing the work early, you know, trying to get him, find ways to try to get him off balance. I mean, so that's why like even like guarding Brandon Ingram later in the summer, it was like I'm not blocking any shot. It's like just finding ways to contest, like, because for these guys it's like a hand in the face, they're actually so used to it, like it doesn't affect them at all. Like it's like you need like other little tricks to contest them better.
Poke him in the eye.
Yeah, well, that's not in my bag yet. Yeah, so that was Clay, and then Paul George was during Rico Hines' runs. I'd say overall, like those runs were some of the best reps I had all summer, just because of like the overall level. Like the whole 76ers team was there, Minnesota team was there, Clippers players were there, UCLA men's basketball team was there, and so yeah, it was just good reps, and it was on the side court. It was like him, Jerry McCain, 76ers players. They're all on the floor, and then funny story, like luckily we actually made it. So there's 3 courts in Rico Hines, like in the UCLA gym. There's like the winner's court, there's like a loser's court, and there's like a loser's court. And then for some of the days, like I was often stuck on like the last court, and then we had gotten a win in that court, and then Paul George's team, I guess, had lost in the main court, and then so we met in the like the second court, and then it was like my first time matching up with him, because he had been there the day before, but then I didn't, like my team didn't get to match up with him. I thought overall like I did solid. Like maybe it was because like I was guarding like smaller, quicker guards before guarding him, like all through those like 2-3 days. So like now I kind of know like foot speed is super important, like a player's cadence. So Paul George has like a very unique like tempo to his dribble, right? And like it's different from some other players. He I wasn't matched up with him the whole time. I was like guarding him, Jerry McCain, so it was like guarding him full court. Yeah, he's just like taller than me. I'd say strength wise, like I held my own, so it's like I definitely have still room for improvement, like in the strength aspect, but I'd say I need to improve like defensively. It's shot contesting. We talked about this after. I remember like what areas I need to improve on defensively. It'd be contesting shots better, getting my foot speed even better, and it's like and then offense. But yeah, so I was wearing his shoes. go to back to the subject, like PG6s are like my favorite shoes to hoop in. I have like 12 pairs.
Your goat shoe,
I was
right?
wearing his shoes. Yeah, I was wearing his shoes guarding him. And then afterwards, after the game we matched up, I did decent, right? And then I was like, hey, PG, like I love your shoes. Like I've like multiple pairs of them. And then he asked like, yo, like, love your defense. Like where'd you learn your defense? And then I was like, oh, just, watching Drew Holiday. And then he was like, oh yeah, I see a lot of similarities. Keep going. And he's like, you play on the UCLA team? Like he thought I was on the varsity team for UCLA. I was like, nah, I'm playing in Asia. I'm playing in Hong Kong. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, keep going. So yeah, that was like our mini exchange after the game. And then I saw him again before like he dipped. That was like the last day he was at the runs, and then he didn't pull up the next 2 days. So that was a dope experience, like just being on the floor like with all these like NBA players. I'd say defensively I'm there. It's just offensively still gotta keep improving, and maybe it's just being smarter with my energy. And sometimes it's a mentality thing too, because it's sometimes when for me, being thrown in that environment, it's like I got 2 NBA teammates, there's like 3 NBA players on the other team. You can kind of feel like, do I belong here? And then you kind of like less aggressive on offense. But then there were days when, I kind of just was more aggressive. Like there were 2 out of the 4 days I was more aggressive on offense, scored more, shot the ball better. So one thing is the actually getting better, like skill-wise, like my ability-wise, but another thing is just unlocking some mental gains. And so next time I'm in that environment, nothing's new, and then just got to kill. Like have a better mentality approaching it, and I think good things will happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. You're talking about you going from Hong Kong, haven't been in the States for, I don't know, what was it, like 5 years?
For college?
How many years? No, how long has it been? Since going to the States the first time, how long has it been?
I hadn't been back since 2019.
Yeah, so imagine like it's been a crazy journey for you to be like in Hong Kong, trying to find the best comp in Hong Kong, which, isn't the same as probably playing in the US. Coming to the US and then like doing all that work on your own, and then finding yourself on the court with Klay Thompson, Brandon Ingram, and Paul George is pretty insane. And I think it comes from having confidence. The confidence comes from what you do in the training room, right? It's the hours of work that you put in guarding different types of bodies, different speed, and always guarding the hardest guy in the room, right? That's something that you kind of challenge, you take pride in, is always picking the best offensive person and trying to lock them down, right?
Like seeking it.
Seeking out that discomfort, and then all of that kind of builds into these, like, you do all that preparation because you never know when you're going to hit something like this, right? And so for, any players or kids listening, it's like asking where confidence comes from. It starts really in the training room, right? And then you get a rep where you do successful against someone that builds a little bit more confidence. You play against Klay, you do well. That's a huge confidence, right? Then you do it against Paul George, and you're like, it continues to reaffirm you. And when you start lacking confidence or you start doubting yourself, like, you gotta pull from your previous, like, we don't sit on our laurels, but like I think a lot of players are just like, I can't shoot, I suck, or Like, you know what I mean? Like just like that like when they're going through like a negative spot or they're having a few rough games. I've heard that. Like I've had players be like, I can't shoot. I'm like, what? That's a lie. And to really battle that, you got to have examples that you can pull out of your bag and confidence. And I think like for me being able to see your entire trajectory from 2021 till now, it's like I can see people don't see all like the bricks maybe that you've been laying for your foundation, and then when the moment comes, like being aggressive and going towards it. And so I was super happy to see that for you. That's like once in a lifetime, being in Asia, watching players in the NBA, and then sharing NBA court, and then not only that, wearing this like the shoes of the player, you know what I mean, and getting props for them. That's like super validating. So that was awesome to see for you. Okay, we had one question. We had a lot of questions, but maybe we'll just answer this one.
Fan question? Yeah.
It says, how do you transfer skills from practice to in-game? Why don't you give your answer to that?
You would be able to answer it in a more like systematic way, but the first
Sure. Why don't we hear your answer first, though?
The first approach is like make your practice more game-like.
Okay, yeah, there you go. What's more game-like mean to you?
You always need some type of live reps, whether that's like full one-on-one or like with some type of defender. Like maybe the defender's like we use these like sticks, like so it's like you could block shots with it. So always having like some semi-live defense for most of your reps, I think helps a lot, just because if you spend all your time, going 1-on-0 against a cone, then don't be surprised when like if that's all you do, then you play games against physical contact and like it's not feeling comfortable or natural. I'd say that's one. Transfer skills, you could also say like, are you strong enough? Like if you're physically not able to express your skills, or say you are super skilled and then suddenly, you have like NBA players guarding you, like Kawhi Leonard's in his peak guarding you, you ain't showing any of your skill, right? Like any of us, So it's like who you're up against as well. So I think getting your body better, training with live reps. I think that's a good start. What do you think? What would you say to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the common thing you'll hear is like, oh, well, what if I don't have live defenders? But that's a great point to bring up. A lot of guys just show up to the court and train alone. So I would say if you're training alone, the next best things you could probably do is some sort of visualization, seeing where the defense is going to be, trying to imagine certain scenarios that you're going to be in a game. Imagine a defender's closing out as quickly on you as possible, and you just got to get the shot off as fast as you can. So if I'm working on it alone, I'm thinking more about capabilities and variability. So capabilities like maybe I'll do a move, I'll drive to the basket, and I'll take off behind this line. If I make it, then I just move that line back. If I make it, I move that line back. I'm trying to improve my jumping and make it more challenging. Maybe I tried to, if I'm finishing off the glass, like I'm going to try to finish off the glass, but it has to be a perfect swish. Or I have to finish off a different piece of the glass each time. Finding different ways to challenge yourself and introduce variability, right? So different footworks, right, left, right, off the hop,
not
going
always
backwards.
Doing the same thing over.
Not always doing the same thing. If I'm alone, like that's probably like your best, and creativity, finding different ways to just be creative, and exploring nuances for yourself. I would say by yourself, that was probably your best bet. With somebody, kind of like what Oliver said, creating pieces of the game that are similar that you're going to be in, whether it's pin downs, off ball, pick and rolls, whatever scenario you find yourself in, and constraining yourself to either space or dribbles that you're going to see, like
Yeah, space
if
and
you're
dribbles. Yeah, the constraints.
yeah, if you're off ball, like you're probably not gonna coach is not gonna let you take 6 dribbles before you get shot off, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just having defense and putting yourself in those live scenarios, I think is probably the best way. And then
yeah, no, I was about to say, like, for most people, if you're like we're in this space, so we kind of like know like 2-3 dribble limit, like all kinds of like stuff. But for someone who's like never, like doesn't even know like this kind of concepts, if you just play ones like with 3 dribble limit, that already like changes a lot, because before that you might have been like going like end to end, 1-on-1, like with the full end in the court. Maybe it's like 1-on-1 just like with limited space, 3 dribbles. That alone could probably, like if you have a 1-on-1 like just a friend, like that can probably help a lot in terms of like your progress.
yeah, and then 1-on-1, starting the defense from different places, closeouts. Don't be. I think like when I see kids playing 1-on-1, it's always like check ball at the top of the key, off triple threat. It could be like off the dribble. You got to start off the dribble. It could be defense closes out from the side or the front. Defense starts from your side. Just different various positions, I think is really important. Okay, I think that's enough for people to eat on. What is there another question? Someone said, "What's the name of the pod?" I think we should field request. I mean, gains don't stop doesn't sound too bad.
GDS, yeah. We can have a little.
If you guys have ideas, leave a comment. All right, were there any other questions that you want to answer, or you think that's good?
We kind of answered how to, like, we'll also share these screenshots in the video so people know we're actually like, we're actually looking at your questions. But how to know what to improve on and not overthink. That's kind of 2 questions, but
yeah,
I guess how to know what to improve on. Yeah, we kind of talked about it, but most people, I've always been kind of like, I know what I'm not good at. Like, some people aren't that good at being honest with themselves, though. Have you met people, players like that, or are most people pretty good with
and
that?
not even honest, but unaware. Like, what should you work on? They're like, everything. I'm like, okay, if you had to choose one, so, what would it be?
Okay, yeah, so yeah, I guess it depends person to person, but like shooting, defense, your body, no one can, you're definitely not too athletic, so it's like you need to be working on your like, let's say would you rather have someone who can shoot but can't play defense, or plays really great defense but can't shoot? This is like a question I just made up, but I think that's a good question.
I would take the shoot question, because I would take the shooter, because I think defense, like it can be trained. Obviously, shooting can be trained too, but I just think the time it takes to develop someone's shot is really, really long. and I think I would be able to build someone's defense faster than someone's, like, it just depends, because like if you're asking me like, oh, we have a pro player here, he's 26, he doesn't know how to shoot, like he's already been shooting a certain way for his whole life. It's gonna take like think Tim Tebow, right, to change his throwing form, which like they couldn't, because it was just like he had thousands and thousands of reps. So it just depends on the age of the defender, but I think I would take the shooter.
I would agree with you as well. So you answered it from like a development perspective. I was also asking, like, if you had a teammate on, if you're a coach, like you gotta put someone in the game, like for a game, or like you that's all you have.
Oh man. I guess there's 4 other people that can help play defense though, so hopefully, hopefully we
Yeah.
can hide him.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that was nobody asked that question, but I thought it was a
That was your own interesting hypothetical.
um
Oh, how to
That's
know what
good.
to improve on. I mean, I'll just say it one more time. It's a scouting report. Like,
yeah.
literally, if you were to write for your friend, like, or if you were to have your parents or your coach write, like, the scouting report of how to shut you down, what would you write on there? I'm pretty sure every player who's listening to this can write something to that. And if you can't, then think back to your worst game and think about what happened to that game.
I would agree, because yeah, you should know what you need to improve on. It should be like pretty clear.
How do you come overthinking?
Um,
That's a question. Begin with that one.
well, there's overthinking before you play, and then there's hopefully you're not overthinking while you play, because one solution is like just focus on defense or focus on something that's like, I mean, hopefully I've never had that issue, but if you're enough in the flow of the game, you can't be overthinking. You just physically can't. So it's like maybe you're focusing on being more energetic. It's like crash offensive rebounds or thinking about assignments. Like if someone's just, not in a team setting, then it's a little harder maybe to implement. But if you're in a 5-on-5 game with a coach and stuff, like you have things you need to do on the floor. Like, on offense, you guys need to do this, run these. On defense, you have like, whether you're switching, going over, under screens, like there's like, you need to be thinking about that. So if you're thinking about that, I don't think you're able to like think about anything else. So, I don't know. What would you say? Like I would say like just focus on defense or like just find a way to get into the flow of things, and then you're not overthinking.
Yeah, I would say it starts in the training environment. Like if you're part of a team or you work with a trainer who's always stopping you, telling you that you're doing this move wrong or you did this wrong, or those practices where it's like you guys are scrimmaging and the coach blows a whistle like after every
And just
single
talks for a
play
while.
and talks about how like everyone's wrong. Yeah, like that's what causes overthinking, because you're always stopping and being critiqued and everything. So it starts in the training room where like you need a live environment where you're not stopping and you're making reads, right? And you're getting reps at looking at the secondary defender, where the primary defender is, and feeling a live environment, so you know what that feels like. And then if you do find yourself thinking on the court, kind of what Oliver said, just trying to be as present as possible with what's in front of you, So if you find your mind racing and going to too many different areas, like just reducing it to the most simple task in front of you. So like, I'm just going to stay an arm's length away from my defender, from my offensive player right now.
Close the space.
Or
Defense
on
positioning.
defense, like I'm just going to make sure like I run to the deep corner instead of like 2 feet from the deep corner. And I'm just going to stay here. And I'm just going to focus on boxing out my guy. So whatever thing you can reduce yourself to, I would challenge yourself to do that. And just one play at a time. Don't think about the past. Don't think about the future. Just one play, be as present as possible, and then start training yourself. But that does need to start in the training room. You start practicing doing that. Like this is the biggest thing, is like we can't expect to do certain things in practice, certain things in our own individual training, and then like step on the court, having never practiced or doing those things, like magically transfers over, right? It doesn't work like that, right? So we do want as much similarities as we can in our training environment from the game environment. Now it's never going to be perfect, but we just want to close that gap to the best of our ability.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Cool. I mean, we got an hour 20. This is something me and Oliver are hoping to do more regularly. Drop comments as to what you want us to talk about, what you want to hear. This is our first go around, so be patient with us.
We'll get it out. We'll get it out ASAP. And hopefully once a week, at least like bi-weekly. It's definitely doable.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, because we can chat for a long time about stuff. Yeah. Merry Christmas.
All right. Stopping it.
It just hit.
Merry Christmas, guys. Gains don't stop.
Gains don't stop.